Good morning, everyone, and welcome to far northwestern Montana. I'm walking across the Koocanusa Bridge over beautiful Lake Koocanusa. This bridge was built in the early 70s when the Kootenai River was dammed, and this is the highest and the longest bridge in Montana. It is 2,437 feet long, and depending on water levels, it's apparently either 215 or 270 feet high. That seemed kind of high to me, so it doesn't feel that high. Sorry if you're afraid of heights, this might be unpleasant. But I think it's that height above the original level of the river. Right now above the lake, it seems like it's 100 feet high. I don't know. I saw it called online the Bridge to Nowhere because it's not like there's a huge city, or really any city of any kind on this side of the lake. There's a small little community over this way, and I think, another kind of over the mountains over there, but there's not much over here. Apparently there is some sort of Amish or Mennonite community somewhere in this area, but I couldn't really find any more information about that. Let me know if you have more details. We are on day 5 of my scooter camping trip from my home in Wyoming to Canada and potentially beyond. In the last video, I ended on sort of a cliffhanger. I had a change oil light go on the dash of the scooter. And that was odd because I had just had the oil changed about 700 miles earlier, and the service intervals for this scooter are like 8,000 miles. And so yesterday morning, which I didn't film a whole lot of, it was just kind of a riding day and a get stuff done day, I went to a motorcycle shop in Missoula, Montana, called like Five Valleys Honda Yamaha or something like that. And they checked it out, and the guy basically said, it's fine, sometimes these lights just go on, and so he reset it and sent me on my way. So hopefully we're all good, but we'll keep an eye on it. And then from Missoula, I drove north. I drove along the west side of Flathead Lake, which was really pretty. I'd never been on the west side before. I've driven along the east side, but never the west. And then I went through Kalispell, Montana, and then I went to the town of Whitefish, and I went to Whitefish Lake, I think it's called, that the town is right on the edge of. And then I just kept driving north through the forest, and here we are. Let me show you on the map exactly where we are. So like I said, we are in the far northwest corner of Montana. If you can see, let's see, right here, there's a town called Eureka. I was just there this morning getting some supplies. And just to the left of that, there's a long, skinny lake. That is Lake Koocanusa. That's where we are right now. So again, we are just kind of in this extreme northwest corner, just below the US-Canada border. We could be in Canada in half an hour if we wanted, but I think that'll be in the next video, or possibly the one after that, when we actually go explore a little bit of British Columbia. But for today, we're still in this part of Montana, and let me show you what we're going to be doing next. So from here, if we look across the lake and zoom way on in to the top of this little hill mountain thing right here, you can kind of see a structure. That is where we're going. So we are going to go hike up to that from the edge of the lake somewhere, starting somewhere, I don't know, over here, I think. Also, one thing I find fascinating is that there are woodland caribou in this area, which are very rare, but they're still around. It's less than a couple miles. It's only a few minutes drive to get to where we're going to park to do the hike. Nice little drive, though. The main highway in this area is on the east side of the lake. That's where I just was. But there's also a paved road on the west side. And we're going to make a left here. But if we take a right, well, I did take a right last night. I camped over on that side. I'll put a picture of my campsite here. But yeah, we have, let's see, 1.2 miles to go. And what a cool little road. Not much traffic, because again, this doesn't really lead to much of anything. But it's a nice drive. Okay, according to my map here, in 170 feet, We have a trailhead. Is this it? Is this where we park? Looks like it. Okay, let's park on the far side here. Well, let's see. Now I'll park right here. Okay. The transition from riding to hiking takes a little bit of time. I always wear earplugs on the scooter, by the way. Apparently it helps with not getting tinnitus or tinnitus when you're older. Yeah, I've got to basically take off all my riding clothes, put them away, put my hiking clothes on, mostly just my hiking shoes, and then, you know, lock away the camera gear that I'm not using either into the under seat storage or the top case storage, and it's a whole thing. So let me take care of this, then we'll hit the trail. Yeah, that took 29 minutes. Took 29 minutes to change out of my riding clothes, organize everything, put things into my backpack, tuck stuff away, lock stuff away, get it all ready to go. Man, not exactly efficient, but luckily at this time of year, the days are long. We've got lots of daylight. I don't think it's supposed to rain today, but I guess in this part of the country, you never can be 100% certain of that, right? I don't really have anything to say about this hike. I think it's like 3.5 miles each way with a few thousand feet of elevation gain, so it's quite a bit. And so I'm just gonna film hiking it and I'll talk to you guys again once we get to the top. That hike was not nothing. That was a pretty substantial hike. Let me read to you the stats here. 4.33 miles, took me 2 hours and 36 minutes with 3,327 feet of elevation gain. Oh man, and I felt it. I felt every one of those feet. That was a lot of climbing. But this obviously is a fire lookout tower. It's no longer used as an active fire lookout tower, but you can rent it out for, I think, $45 a night. You can stay here. It's kind of hard to see what's going on inside. But yeah, starting in late June, you can spend the night here. So right now it's boarded up. It's still boarded up for this season. And you can actually drive up here. I think there's probably not too much snow left on the road. You can see the top end of the road right here. This looks like an outhouse. But I certainly couldn't ride this, or at least I definitely shouldn't ride this with the scooter, and so I didn't. But the view is worth it. This is so cool. I love coming up to these old fire lookouts. You can see the bridge where we started the video this morning. And the lake, the long skinny lake, going from way over here all the way this way, continuing on through the valley, off in this direction. And then of course just surrounded by mountains. Mountain ranges as far as the eye can see. It's a fairly clear day. I mean, it's overcast, but we can still see pretty well. It's great to come here this time of year, like in the late spring, early summer, because there are no forest fires. And so it's not hazy like it might be in the middle of summer. But nice snow-capped peaks over here. Just beautiful, beautiful country. So was it worth that unrelentingly steep hike? Yeah, it was. I'm not in a huge hurry to do it again. I think next time I'd probably drive up. But under the circumstances, I think this was the right choice, and I'm happy I did this. This is so cool. It's just so green up here. So many trees, and ow, I just hit my knee on this fence post thing. But I love it. But I do have to get back down. I have to get off the mountain. Once again, this hike took a while, and so I'm going to retrace my steps, hike back down to the scooter, and then let's reconvene at a town that's nearby. I need to get some supplies, and then also there's an interesting but also kind of tragic story to that town that I want to share with you guys. And then the main thing that I wanted to do today was a drive. There's a really amazing, supposed to be really amazing drive that I want to do, or ride in my case, with the scooter. And so we need to get going, need to get a move on. Overall, totally worth doing this hike or drive. Beautiful views, it's a beautiful day. Life is good. I'll see you in town. Good morning, and let me explain, and I apologize for the orange hue of my motel room here. We won't be in here for too long. So yesterday after the hike, I got back down to the scooter, and I put my riding gear back on, and I hit the road. I rode alongside the lake for a while, and it was really pretty, and then I ran into some road construction. And that delayed me for a good 45 minutes, I'd say. That was probably the longest stretch of road construction I've ever seen. And it was slow going. And so I was continuing to make my way toward town. I'm in a town called Libby right now, Libby, Montana, and we'll talk more about Libby in a minute. So I was making my way toward here, and it started to rain. And so combine that with the delay, and I was just feeling tired. I didn't want to go for that scenic ride, that scenic drive. I feel like I would have just been forced. I would have felt rushed, so I didn't want to do it. And the plan always was to stay in this motel. I had booked this motel the day before yesterday because I need to shower and I need to back up all my footage from the last 5 days. This is day 6, I think, of this trip. And I needed to recharge all my batteries and everything, and I just needed a little home base to in general get some work done for a couple of days. And so I have this place for 2 nights. With that said, it is the next morning, it is 7 o'clock, and we're gonna go for that scenic ride. Here's the motel. I'm just getting the scooter ready to go and putting some of the luggage back on. This place is called Country Inn, and it was the cheapest spot in town, and it's nice enough for a couple nights. But look at these mountain views. This is a beautiful, beautiful place. I believe these are the Cabinet Mountains, and apparently these are supposed to be one of the wildest and most untouched mountain ranges in the country. So let me know if you'd like to see me come back here sometime in the summer when the mountains aren't covered in snow. And I just filled up the scooter for a grand total of $6.54. Man, that does not get old. I love that. So the drive that we're about to do is about 60 miles long, I think. It's basically a loop up into and through the mountains, going through some beautiful valleys and following a river or two. So that's the plan. And then, as far as this town goes, this town is known for two things, really. First, for being just surrounded by spectacular nature, and it really is a spectacular place. But the second reason is asbestos. So this has been called Asbestos Town, and basically for decades this place was home to vermiculite mining, and that's something used in both construction materials and also in gardening. It's like a nutrient that you put in the ground to help plants grow, apparently. And so vermiculite mining was going on in this area, and unbeknownst to the miners and unbeknownst to the town population in general, there was asbestos basically in that rock that they were mining. And so ultimately 10% of the town's population died from cancer or from lung scarring, and it was just a huge disaster. I read that there have been something like 200,000 lawsuits against the company that was responsible, and that company went bankrupt but then is back, so it's a whole thing there. But yeah, in this small town of a few thousand people, hundreds of people died, and thousands more in the general area are sick. And so it's a tragic story for such a beautiful place. I mean, look at this. We've got clouds in front of the mountains. It obviously rained a ton overnight. The road is very wet. My bike, the scooter, is very wet. But I'm hoping that we'll have a nice little break in the rain here as we do our drive. I'm fine with riding in a little bit of rain, but if it starts coming down super, super heavy, then we'll pull over and take shelter somewhere. And here we are crossing the Kootenai River. Beautiful. And to wrap up the whole Libby story, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, came in, designated this area a Superfund site, and spent hundreds of millions of dollars on mitigation, on restoration, on cleanup. And as of 2015, the area is apparently safe to live in. And then everyone who was affected health-wise gets free medical coverage for the rest of their lives. And I don't know if I mentioned this, the important thing is that the mining company, those executives knew that there was asbestos in the mine. They knew what they were doing. Isn't that terrible? And they just didn't tell the townspeople, they didn't tell the miners. That is just the definition of evil, if you ask me. Delightful is the word that keeps coming to mind as I'm riding this. This is just a delightful little ride. There's no one out here. I love all the green. It is just a perfect morning. I can't wipe the grin on my face. I'm just smiling from ear to ear. And I think we have arrived. Wow, look at those clouds. That is awesome. I think the river is right here. Sorry, let me finish my thought. I think we've arrived in Yaak. This is the Yaak River. This little town is called Yaak. I think the population here is a few hundred. And when I say Yak, it's Y-A-A-K. I assume it's pronounced just like the animal, but I don't know, maybe there's some interesting local way of saying it, but I'm just going to keep saying Yak. I don't think there's much on this side of town. You know, I just turned right at that intersection. I think most of what there is to see here is to the left, but we have some houses, some cabins, got some lots for sale, or some houses for sale. Man, if you really want to get away from everything, but still have paved access to your door, I think this might be the spot for you. But yak is a Native American word, I think in the Kootenai language, if I'm not mistaken, that means arrow. And the story goes that the Kootenai River is like a drawn bow. It looks like a drawn bow. And then the Yak River, which I guess flows into it, looks like an arrow. And so it's called arrow, or it means arrow. And yeah, there's really not much else back over here. So let's turn around and go back the other way. Oh, there is a school though. This says the Yak School, home of the Bobcats. Very nice. For the last little stretch of road before getting to town, we were following the South Fork of the Yak River. And for the rest of the loop, we have about half of it left. I think a little bit less than half, but roughly half of it left. We're going to be following the main stem of the Yak River. Speed limit through town is 35 miles an hour. We have a tavern and a little store, a mercantile, and a saloon, the Dirty Shame Saloon. Some houses. Ice and espresso at this little, looks like a little coffee shack. Oh yeah, Coffee Shack, S-H-A-A-K. Ha! Yak Rod and Gun Club. And I think that's just about it. I think we're probably beyond most of downtown here. And our next destination as we continue on the loop is about 22 miles away. It is a waterfall on the Yak River. I think it's just called the Yak River Falls or Yak Falls. And wow, look at those clouds on the mountains. That's unbelievable. So the river, I believe, is on the left over there, and I think it will be for the remainder of the ride until we get back to the main highway, which is, I think, like 30 miles away. Okay, this scenery, the clouds and everything is just too good to let pass up. I'm gonna fly the drone and get an aerial view of the area, and then I think I'm just gonna run the time lapse again as we drive to the waterfall. But man, this looks so just epic, like something out of Lord of the Rings or out of a fantasy novel. Crazy. This is a fantastic waterfall. Again, I think this is just called Yak Falls. And it's not like a free falling, high vertical drop waterfall, but what it lacks in vertical drop, it makes up for in just turbulence. That is so neat. And there are sort of two sections, two drops. There's like this section up here, including this down here. And then there's a spot over here where the river flows over kind of a cliff, like a rock, and you can see the rock under the water. I don't know if you can really tell that in the drone footage. Let's go walk along the road a little bit, see if we can get a view of that section of the falls. Also, I just had an interesting chat with a woman who stopped with her husband to look at the falls here, and they saw me pass them and they were intrigued by the scooter, so we had a nice chat about the scooter and about the trip. They're from, I think they said, Lincoln, Montana, which is kind of near Helena, and that's apparently where Ted Kaczynski, or the Unabomber, was when he was sending out his bombs in the mail. And she was telling me that not many people know this, if anyone outside of the community knows this, but the mailman there would give Ted rides to town so that he could send off his mail at the post office, I guess. Pretty crazy. And she and her husband have been living there for years, and they knew Ted also, so yeah, very, very interesting stuff. It's amazing the stories you hear when you're out on the road like this, the people you meet. It's one of the best parts of this kind of traveling. There's that upper portion of the falls, and then look at this. This looks almost fake, almost otherworldly. You can see the rock underneath the water there. That is amazing. And then it goes down into this sort of gorge or canyon, and there are some like footings on either side of the gorge. So there used to be a bridge of some sort here. That is just mesmerizing. I feel like I could stare at that for hours. And then here, once again, just a boiling cauldron of chaos. And it continues on downstream. And I'm gonna wrap up the video here, guys. From here, it's like 6 or 7 miles down the road to the main highway, and then another half an hour back to Libby. I do have that motel room for one more night, and I still have quite a bit more just stuff to do today. I still have to back up the footage. I have to do my laundry and get a couple more things, and you know, just stuff that I'm not gonna film. I just wanna kind of relax for the rest of the day. But I hope you enjoyed the adventure. And this really does feel like an adventure to me. You know, I've climbed a million mountains, I've driven a million miles in my SUVs, it feels like. But being on a scooter and seeing this new terrain, this new territory, and being forced to stay on the paved roads but still find interesting things and still find accessible campsites, like, I'm having the time of my life. This is so much fun, and I hope you guys are enjoying it too. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorite part was. Let me know if you have any questions. And I'll see you in the next one, which should be Canada. So stay tuned. I'll see you around. Be sure to check out Adventure Know-How, my new site, where you can gain access to a map of all of my free campsites, plus monthly bonus videos that you won't find anywhere else. Learn more at adventureknowhow.com. And for links to everything else SUV RVing related, visit suvrving.com. Links to these sites and more will be in the video description.